Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I will be reacting to Ben Shapiro talking to another pronoun person, another person defending all the gender nonsense from, yes, you guessed it, another college campus. Hey guys, this is Isabella Moody from Resist the Mainstream. Make sure you like today's video, comment down below, subscribe to our channel, and let's get right into it. So Ben Shapiro's at yet another college campus. Let's see another student be utterly brainwashed by the college system. Let's see what they have to say.
In disagreement with you is on the subject of transgenderism. And what I've seen in the past is that you said one of your principal objections to the transgender movement is that you think accepting them into society won't necessarily help solve their problems. Is that like a fair characterization of what you say?
No, I mean, I think that I don't think it's fair in the sense that I think everybody should be treated with a certain level of dignity. But what I have said is that I don't think that the high transgender suicide rate is attributable to societal intolerance.
Okay, so I sort of disagree with, or I don't think the empirical evidence necessarily says that. I've seen studies from UCLA that have drawn different conclusions, but I realize if we disagree on the empirical evidence, not much can be resolved here tonight. So assuming that it would help to accept them more into society, would you change your position on transgenderism?
So the position on transgenderism I want to clarify so that I can tell you what I would change and what I wouldn't change. So what I would not change is the idea that you cannot force people to call you what you want to be called. That is anathema to a free society. I will also not change the idea that we should not indoctrinate children in blatant biological falsehoods like there's no such thing as male and female. I think it's very important that kids know there is such a thing as male and female, that these are real categories, and that a man cannot become a woman and a woman cannot become a man.
Yes, I mean, obviously Ben is being completely reasonable here. Why are we teaching our kids that the gender is a spectrum, that it's non-binary, and that non-binary is a gender now too? Yeah, these things are not true. You can see the differences between genders across all species. I grew up on a farm at home, and I've had many different animals throughout my life, like many different species of animals. And let me tell you, there are fixed, unique differences between males and females, even in chickens, dogs, cats, you name it, okay? Literally in all species, even peacocks. Yes, my farm has peacocks, and there's even vast differences between males and females. So why are we teaching kids that it's different? Oh, because the left has a mission to confuse our children, make them question their genders, want to change their genders, because ultimately the globalist plan here is depopulation. They want to depopulate the earth. The less humans, the better. So that is their goal. They're trying to break down the traditional family unit. And yeah, they don't want us reproducing. They want gay people to be together, but anything but straight and nuclear family. That is the worst, the thing that could ever happen, according to the globalists.
Confusing children about this stuff carries its own inherent dangers. Kids are easily confused and easily screwed up. So I think that would not change. I've also said in conversations with people like Blair White, who's a transgender woman, meaning a man who believes he's a woman. I've said to Blair, like if we were at restaurants or something and we were out to dinner together, I wouldn't go out of my way to call Blair White a he. I mean, presumably we'd be speaking in second person with one another. But at the same time, like for the same reason that there are people in my life who do lots of things that I disagree with, and I don't feel it necessary to launch a conflict on the basis of that every time we meet.
So this is where I will differ from Ben Shapiro, because to me, he's still submitting to transgenderism. Even if you're out to dinner with someone that's a transgender, which, why are you out to dinner? Anyways, that's besides the point. Even if you're out to dinner with a transgender person, if you're going to call them by their preferred pronouns, you're submitting to a false reality. You're submitting to their delusion. Hey, if you're transgender and you for some reason still want to hang out with me, I'm not going to change my language to appease you. And yes, that might be rude, but hey, I'm not going to change who I am or reality just because it makes you feel better. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below, because I know this is a conservative audience and maybe I'm a little bit more extreme in that sense, but I don't think that we should just limit not accepting preferred pronouns on a stage or in a debate like someone like Ben Shapiro thinks. You need to apply the same logic and principle in your entire life, or else you're submitting to the woke trans agenda.
But that's a different thing than what the transgender rights movement is saying. What they are saying is that society should cram down on people perceptions about biology that are false, that we should treat it as bigotry if you use the actual biological pronouns for people. This is a form of bigotry and hate.
Okay, so, I mean, yes, that's a problem that the trans people want, or the government institutions wants. In other countries, they're actually labeling it a hate crime to misgender someone. And keep in mind how confusing it is to refer to someone as their preferred pronouns, especially if it's like they them. It literally grammatically does not make sense. It's hard to talk like that. But that's besides the point. Here's where I think Ben Shapiro kind of contradicts himself, because he just got done saying how if he's with someone that's a friend that's transgender, obviously he's going to use their preferred pronouns because it would be rude to not do that. But then he's also at the same time complaining about how woke leftists and institutions want to label it bigotry and a hate crime if for misgendering someone. And he doesn't agree with that. Okay, well, is it bigotry? Is it rude? Because you just kind of got done saying that you think it would be rude not to use someone's preferred pronouns. This is why the only way to win on this situation is to constantly be logically consistent. Do not waver at any point. Do not waver just dependent on who's in front of you. Grow some balls, Ben Shapiro, and be consistent. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Nonsense. It's just something you don't like. There are lots of things I don't like. It doesn't mean it's a form of bigotry and hate. And that's where I stand on this. So again, I think that we should try to treat people with as much civility as possible. And in my position as a public figure, I am very often speaking on the general kind of issue. I'm not speaking on one-to-one, out to lunch or something. That's a little bit of a different thing. When
No, it's not.
my child is 4.5 years old, right? She comes to me and she will say, Dad, I drew a picture. Do you think that it's good? And the answer is yes. I love my daughter. Sure, the picture is great. Now, if I'm an art critic, is that going to change my definition of good or art? No. If I were the art critic at the New York Times and I were reviewing my daughter's picture, I'd say this is garbage. It's not good at all, right? But my public position is that I am the art critic at the New York Times discussing issues of public importance and public policy. I don't think that it is the responsibility of other people to protect your fragile mindset. With that said, if people wish to do so out of a certain level of sympathy, I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you want to, in interpersonal connections, do that. But I think that teaching kids, as we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns, or that men can become women can become men, sex doesn't exist, as a recent op-ed in the New York Times said, that's asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the majority of things that he just like how I tend to agree with things Ben Shapiro says, but there's many things I also don't agree with him on. I tend to be a little bit more extreme in my opinions compared to someone like Ben Shapiro. But yeah, I'm curious what you guys have to think. Do you think I'm being too extreme when I say that if you're with a transgender person, you shouldn't alter the language and basic reality just because they're there? I don't know. I feel like that's how every conservative should feel, and there's just a lot of conservatives that are lukewarm. If you look at CPAC, they allow Lady MAGA in, who's a drag queen. There's nothing conservative about drag queens, but that's why when I resist the mainstream, it's not just the left mainstream. It's also the right-wing mainstream, because yes, that exists. But that's all we have time for today, guys. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.